All right, everybody, welcome so much for the WLS coaching group presentation. Today's presentation, like I mentioned to you before, is about knowing your numbers, really getting back to basics with seeing that doctor or recognizing something where maybe there's an opportunity. We're going to go through a number of different metrics that I think are important to at least have awareness or follow. So real quick disclaimer, this presentation is for educational information purposes only and solely as a self-help tool for your own use. I'm not providing medical, psychological, or nutritional therapy advice. You should not use this information to diagnose or treat any health problems or illnesses without consulting your own medical practitioner. Always seek the advice of your own medical practitioner and or mental health provider about specific health situations. For my full disclaimer, please go to coachmikethomas.com. Got that out of the way. So that's who I am. If you're watching this online, the recording hopefully will go through and I'll be able to put that online a little bit here. But again, I'm Coach Mike Thomas. I've been a health and wellness coach for almost 5 years. I'm now national board certified. I'm also board certified in lifestyle medicine. I'm a registered pharmacist. Just to let you know, my typical niche and who I typically coach are individuals that get those results back, that whether that's about weight, obesity, high blood pressure, cholesterol, diabetes, and they really want to start converting to more plant-based eating, not necessarily 100%, but more plants in their diet. They typically will come to me. I'm known as the plant guy, and I will help and support them in that capacity. So that's my niche to what I'm trying to do to help people make lifestyle change in their lives. That's my contact information. And why don't we go ahead and dive in? All right, so this presentation is broken down into 4 segments for guidelines of optimal health. That is labs you typically will get back from your doctor's office, some dietary guidelines, what the CDC, World Health Organization, will recommend, some movement recommendations, as well as some sleep recommendations. And if you stay for the whole presentation, at the end, I do have a tool that I can offer to you for free if you're interested. So labs and measurements. So I broke this down to some of the basics that I think we all know about. Again, I'm not going to have everything on here, but these are some of the basics that your physician or you personally, especially after this presentation, will want to be monitoring or have some awareness of what's going on there. The first one, I have to definitely start out with blood pressure, right? So high blood pressure or hypertension, really the silent killer. Nearly half of the adults in the United States, about 47%, 116 million adults, have hypertension in America. This is defined as systolic blood pressure greater than 130 and a diastolic greater than 80. And you can see where that is on the chart. It's in the orange area on the chart on the right there on your screen. Only 1 in 4 adults in America have their blood pressure under control, right? So they're taking medications and maybe they're doing some lifestyle modifications and they actually have it where it's in the normal level. So again, this presentation is a little bit back and forth. So my question on this slide for you guys to answer is, name 2 things that a person can do to lower their blood pressure if it's elevated. What do you guys think?
Exercise.
Yep, movement would be one.
Decrease salt.
Decrease sodium. Yep. Anything else?
Whole food plant-based diet.
Okay, eat more plants. That will definitely help. Yeah. Anything else?
Maybe continuous exercise.
Yep, there you go. One more.
Lose weight.
Lose weight. Awesome. Yeah. So we recognize the importance there. Again, you'll have this for yourself afterwards as a recording, so you don't have to worry about taking notes or what have you. So I definitely wanted to bring up cholesterol. I actually get a number of clients that will have just, gotten back from their doctor's office and their total cholesterol or maybe their LDL is not at a level that they're really happy with. And maybe their physician isn't either. The 2018 guidelines recently changed the lower is better to say, ideally, we want to be 150 or lower in total cholesterol. This is definitely a change from what a lot of physicians were saying, which was, yeah, just as long as you're less than 200. And the reason many physicians were saying that was because less than 200 is ideal for Americans, but we know what Americans eat, right? Typical standard American diet is a lot of processed foods, a lot of animal products, which is causing the increase of the cholesterol level. And now they've recently come down with the principle of lower is better. Let's shoot for 150 or less. And the LDL at cholesterol, which is the quote unquote the bad or less than healthy cholesterol, less than 100, right? So when you do that, it lowers your rates of having heart disease and stroke. So engaging question number one, where does cholesterol come from? It comes from two places.
Fat,
Um,
fat in the diet.
yeah, so it comes from fat or animal products that you eat. And the cholesterol in your body also comes from
Protein.
no.
Oh.
It comes from your liver. Your body actually makes cholesterol. And it does that because actually cholesterol has a valid, important purpose for being healthy in our bodies, right? So cholesterol isn't horrible because it does a lot of really wonderful things for our cells and our membranes, et cetera. But the short answer here is we don't need to add additional cholesterol in our diet because our liver actually makes the cholesterol we need. So the number one way to lower cholesterol levels would be, what do you think?
Diet.
And what about the diet?
Go with no animal products, ideally. No cheese products, no dairy,
Yep.
no eggs.
Yep, absolutely. If you can eliminate or minimize animal products which have cholesterol in them and plants don't, that would help potentially to significantly lower cholesterol levels. Very nice. You guys are doing awesome. All right, diabetes. Of course, got to talk about this. Diabetes is the 8th leading cause of death in the United States. In 2020, adults 50 or older with diabetes die about 5 years earlier and develop disability 6 to 7 years earlier, and spend about 1 to 2 more years in disabled state than adults without diabetes. Almost 40 million people, or 11.3% of the United States, has type 2 diabetes diagnosed or undiagnosed in 2019. This total, including 37.1 adults 18 or older, or 14.7 U.S. adults. About 8.5 million of these adults had diabetes, but they were not aware of it, right? So they did not know it happened. They had it, which is pretty scary. So blood glucose or A1C. And we could spend, I think there's probably a presentation I've done in the past where I've gone through the logistics of what's really going on with blood or glucose that's in the blood and not in the cells, and really what diabetes means. But why this is important is because when you have excess glucose in your blood and it can't get into the cells, i.e., pre-diabetes or diabetes, it really ravishes your organs, primarily your kidneys, primarily your eyes, and your extremities. So your lower feet and your hands and your fingertips. It can't get, the circulation isn't good, right? So big picture, that's a challenge. And so my recommendation, you can see the levels there we're looking for. We're looking for normal, which is a A1C, which again is the measurement of glucose that's attached to your hemoglobin blood cells, red blood cells. What we're looking for 5.6 or less than 5.7 as a goal, right? Pre-diabetes, which is 5.7 to 6.4, you can see it on your slide there. Just because you have pre-diabetes doesn't mean you're out of the red zone, okay? You're literally out of the red zone on the screen, but the reason they have a thing called pre-diabetes is not just because diabetes could be coming if we don't get things in order, but also because there's problems and challenges that happens to the eyes and the kidneys and various organs when you're in pre-diabetic state too. So again, ideal is to lower that as much as possible, not having the excess glucose to ravage our organs. Okay, so that's A1C or blood glucose. So body mass index, right? So this is somewhat of a sensitive topic for a lot of people. Understand that 100%. I definitely want to bring it up because a lot of times the doctor's office will certainly want to, talk about it or discuss what's going on with body mass index. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention is elevated body mass index is not necessarily, or just body mass index in general is not necessarily a reflection of good or bad health, right? You can overall see, you can have a weightlifter that's very strong, incredibly healthy, and runs 2 miles 5 times a week, that's literally in a body mass index of 32, 33, where it looks like they're categorized because of their weight and their height as obese, when clearly that's not fat. So overall, it's not necessarily accurate, but they do have the categories, which you can see on your screen. The other thing that I want to bring to your attention is that shape of the body is important. The people that are shaped when they're heavier or maybe an obese state, they're shaped as an apple, where that weight is primarily in their midsection, versus a person that's heavy that's carrying it in their rear end or their thighs. The person that's shaped as an apple is actually less healthy than the person that's carrying that excess weight in their rear end or their thighs, because the excess adipose tissue or fat tissue that's inside, there's a challenge with them with regards to the fat or the adipose tissue being around their organs and such. Helen, did you have a question?
Yes, I did. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I completely agree. BMI is like an outdated measurement. So Coach Mike, in your like a professional opinion in the health coaching community, is there an alternative to determine if people are obese or not, or are people still using this BMI scale? Like, how are people determining this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think probably more accurate, not necessarily obese, because obese is a definition of a BMI, but more accurate of level of health is a waist circumference, right? And I don't have that data or support here to share with you at this time, but a lot of times the doctors will be a lot more interested in what's going on with the waist of the individual versus, okay, where do you stand on the BMI scale? And the analogy about the weightlifter is an example of that. That weightlifter potentially is going to have a waist of 33 or 32 when his BMI looks like his waist should probably be 40 or what have you. So a lot of times doctors will look at that as well, but you're probably not going to see BMI go away anytime soon, just because it's ubiquitous throughout the doctor's office saying, oh yeah, this is what the person's height is, this is what their weight is, boom, this is what their BMI is.
Okay, that's helpful.
Yeah. The other thing is average American, just so you guys can kind of feel, the average American female is 5'4", and normal, again, just quote unquote normal, 18.5 to 25 is a BMI. So that would be 108 pounds to 145 pounds for that average sized female. And the same thing for male. Average male is 5'9", and between 125 pounds and 169 pounds is quote unquote normal with regards to the scale of numbers for BMI. All right. I don't know if anybody's chatting here. Okay. All right. So dietary guidelines. So switching gears a little bit with some dietary guidelines. I wanted to focus on sugar, salt, fat, protein, fiber, and water. And I've got some engaging questions for you guys on some of these as well. If I can switch the screen here. There we go. So sugar. Americans should limit their added sugars, right? It's recommended that Americans 2 years and older to keep their intake of added sugars less than 10% of their total daily calories. So this is added sugars. For example, a person with a 2,000 calorie diet, no more than 200 calories should come from added sugars, which is about 12 teaspoons of sugar over the course of the day. The average American consumes more than 17 teaspoons of sugar each day, according to the American Heart Association. 35 grams of sugar, which is about 7 teaspoons of sugar, is in one 12-ounce can of cola. And the last thing is, and many of you know this, obviously everything's changed with regards to industry. 150 years ago, sugar consumption was 100 times lower. And if you think about it, we probably haven't changed that much genetically to adapt to these chemicals and the sugar, et cetera. So it's incredibly impactful what's happening to the elevated level of sugar in our body. So I got a couple of slides. I got one slide here where it talks about nutritional facts in items. I'm trying to remember. I think it may be the one on the left is like a muffin, of course. So you can see there's 7 grams of added sugar there. And the one on the right, if you ever want to track this, is 24 grams of sugar that's added. I think that's a soda or a cola or something like that as well. So in some of the stuff that I talk about with regards to dietary recommendations, there's a way that you can track it. And I'm trying to include some of those in these slides to help and support you. Salt. So we know about sodium. We said that earlier about high blood pressure. Americans eat on average about 3,400 milligrams of sodium per day. However, dietary guidelines for Americans recommend that adults limit sodium intake to less than 2,300 milligrams per day. And I would say if you have high blood pressure, that number should probably be 1,500 milligrams per day, right? So 2,300 milligrams a day is about a teaspoon of table salt a day. And what's the number one source of salt that we eat in our diet? What do you guys think?
Just table salt?
Yeah, the number one, yeah, it's not table salt. That's a great point, but it's not table salt. When we're average American that consumes salt, where do you think they're getting that salt from?
Processed
Canned foods, yeah.
Processed food, exactly. There's a lot of salt that's added to processed foods. In fact, I might have a little bit of a note here to say. So this on the left is, I think it's ramen noodles. I can't remember. I was getting a number of different things at the same time. But looky here. So the recommendation for, this is from Jeff Novick, registered dietitian, recommendation for the number of milligrams of sodium in a particular package is we want to keep that milligrams of sodium equal to or less than the number of calories. So you can see on the left here, the number of calories of the item on the left is 90 calories right in the middle there per serving. And if you go to the sodium, you can see that it's not equal to or less than this particular item. I think it is ramen noodles because there's so much salt in ramen noodles, right? So, wow, that's 6 times the amount of sodium. And again, 3,400 milligrams of sodium is the average American, which is probably why about half Americans are hypertensive, or that's a big reason why. If you eat the entire container of ramen noodles, 220 milligrams of calories, but over 1,500 milligrams of sodium. So some pretty scary stuff. On the right-hand side is a low sodium black bean can of black beans, right? So here we're a little bit better. So we have 110 calories for half of a cup, and it has only 140 calories of sodium, or 140 milligrams of sodium. You can see that then on the right-hand side there. Okay. So something to kind of keep track of and to pay attention to. So we talked about fat earlier. Following a 2,000 calorie a day diet, your target range for total fat is between 44 and 78 grams a day. Of that, so this is copy and paste here, saturated fat should make up no more than 22 grams. To monitor the fat in your diet, simply add up the number of fat grams that's on the back of the labels you ate during the day. So my question is, why not 0 saturated fat? Because the American Heart Association recommends eliminating saturated fats, which are found in butter, cheese, red meat, and other animal-based food products. So my recommendation, not being a registered dietitian, is let's just cut out the saturated fat altogether. Let's look at what we got here with some chicken nuggets. So this is 6 chicken nuggets, which is a serving, and there's 2.5 servings per container. So that's 15 nuggets in the whole container. And so if you look at it, per serving is 160 calories. We see that. Saturated fat is 1.5 grams. So because it's a meat product, it's got saturated fat in it as well. How much sodium for 160 calories? How much sodium do you see that's in there for that 166 nuggets?
410.
Yeah, 410 milligrams. So probably about 3 times the amount of recommendation per Jeff Novick of sodium. Now, the other thing is, who eats just 6 nuggets? I know I don't when I have nuggets, which I never have them, but when I was eating them, I was definitely having more than 6. I was probably having the whole 15 or maybe at least 12, right? So now you're looking at 440 calories and 1,100 milligrams of sodium, right?
Plus you're adding the high fructose corn syrup
Oh,
sauce.
There you go. Absolutely. We got your added sugars in the bottom there as well. Good point. Protein. So I got a little funny story on this one. According to Dietary References Intake reports for macronutrients of a sedentary adult, which none of us are sedentary, of course, because we're always moving, we should consume 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So this is really about 56 grams for men, roughly, and 46 grams for women. And you can see on the right-hand side some great, delicious plant-based protein sources: almonds, green peas, spinach, lentils, quinoa, split peas, hemp seeds. So this afternoon, just as a heads up, some of you guys know this, but I'm going to share this with you. This afternoon, I made a spinach smoothie, right? And I will make a spinach smoothie about every other day, and then the other days I'll have a huge salad with my dinner. That's typical what I do, just to make sure I'm getting lots of healthy, nutritious plants in. But it's really easy. You throw in some stuff. And my wife was home, and a recently retired physician is one of her good friends that was here in the house, and we were all talking. And I made my smoothie, and she says, exactly, where are you getting your protein? What is there any protein in there? So I just smiled, and then I put this together, and I may send her this. So this literally, I did not put the flaxseed in there, but I actually usually put flaxseed in my smoothies. So this is literally what I made. The 8 ounces of spinach is quite a bit. It's not a cup. It's actually 8 ounces of it. So in 8 ounces, there's 6.8 grams of protein, blueberries, 8 ounces, strawberries. You see there, 22.8 grams of protein. So just this spinach smoothie, which I'll typically have for a snack in the middle of my day, is close to half, probably about 40% of what as I'm sedentary, quote unquote sedentary, my dietary recommendations are for that day. So if you're eating plants and you're listening to your body when you're hungry and you're eating when you're hungry, I think you're going to be just fine. You don't have to worry about adding anything else into your diet.
Well, and when you look at the elephants and the gorillas, they kind of beat the whole idea that you got to be eating meat. They're pretty strong.
Yeah, very good point. Absolutely. So fiber. Aim for taking daily intake of fiber, 25 to 30 grams of fiber per day, which you can see this in the back of the labels. So you can track it if you want. Only 2% of Americans get adequate amount of fiber daily, which basically means 98% of us are constipated, right? What's the number one way to get more fiber in your diet?
More
Plants.
vegetables. Yeah.
Yep, eating plants. So you can see, well, you can see on the slide there, great source of fiber. Fruit, that's a plant. Vegetable, that's a plant. Grain, that's a plant. Whole grain bread, that's a plant. Beans, nuts, seeds, that's a plant. I wouldn't recommend number 6. All right. Benefits of eating more fiber. Why don't we just throw out a few benefits of eating more fiber?
Cleans the colon, cleans the digestive system.
Not constipated. Yep. Anything else?
It grabs cholesterol.
Yep. Great. Anything else?
It's filling.
Yep. Which also indirectly could help with weight loss. If somebody's really eating when they're hungry and they're like, actually, I'm satisfied, I'm full. It's one of the things Chef AJ talks about when she says adding the mix in there. So very good, very good. All right, so I want to talk a little bit about water and hydration. I did look at a number of different sources today, and I really could not find any hard fast. This is how much water you should have. Most of them were along the line of on top of what you normally eat, which if you're eating a lot of plants, and a lot of us on this call are, you're getting a lot of water. So on top of that, we're looking for a goal of around 64 ounces. So I'm not saying this is a hard fast, but I think if we're having 64 ounces of water, we're probably getting pretty well hydrated. I didn't see too many things that said you had to drink an entire gallon, but I did see some of that as well. But my target for myself personally, a lot of my clients will say, yeah, I think if I can get 64 ounces, I'm doing pretty well. But about hydration, thirst is the obvious sign that you need water, but many people mix their thirst signals up with hunger pangs. When the body is dehydrated, not only is it lacking water, but you're also losing important electrolytes such as potassium and salt, etc. So we definitely want to make sure that we are staying hydrated. Switching gears. All right. So movement. If you can see there, and this is no disparaging to anybody that's riding let me just preface by saying if anybody in a grocery store that's riding a scooter needs to physically ride that scooter, they should ride that scooter. My guess is, and this is not a judgment, that there's a number of people that ride that scooter that maybe don't need to be riding the scooter. We like to ride the scooter because it's fun and we can exert as little effort as possible. You can see on your slide there, and that's human nature. But it is truly a missed opportunity when you park right next to the entrance and you basically hop on a scooter, because we are so sedentary in our lives in general anyway. So I promise there's no judgment there, because I know a lot of people actually physically need to ride the scooter. But this message is to those individuals that don't need to ride the scooter. We really should be moving to the best of our abilities. And again, looking at human nature, animals in general, we're going to do everything we can to avoid pain, to seek pleasure, and do that with as little effort as possible. Knowing that and having the awareness of that and setting your environment up to support you is what matters most. So movement, what counts?
Everything you do.
Walking.
Everything you do. That's right, Nancy. Any movement that you have counts. It used to be just a few short years ago. Oh yeah, you had to move for at least 10 minutes and then it counted. But the reality is every movement counts. And that's why parking a little further away from the door is good, and it counts, and it's movement. That's some extra steps for you, etc. So the 150, 75, many of you know this, but I'm still going to share it because I think it's important to know. Physical activity recommendation is to engage in at least 150 of moderate intensity aerobic activity per week, or 75 minutes of vigorous, I'm sorry, I can't speak tonight, intensity aerobic activity per week. So it's 50 or 75. So 150 or 75. So the 150 would be the lady walking on the right. She's moving. And if she moves, she takes a 30-minute walk 5 times a week. That is hitting the minimum standard for physical activity. The 75 is the person on the left there that's actually running, right? Or somebody that could be biking more aggressively or what have you. Or you can walk fast, and that will increase the intensity as well, right? So just knowing that and being able to track that, hey, I got my minutes in, or I got my miles in, or what have you, could be incredibly motivating for you. So just kind of knowing that, what do you think the benefits are for that individual that either goes out for a run or does their walk, 30 times with the dogs, 5 times a week for 30 minutes? What do you think some of those benefits are of that individual? Name just a few.
Reduces your sugar intake. It lowers your sugar.
Yeah, it actually increases the sensitivity of insulin in your body. So that's exactly right. It helps to decrease your sugar. What else?
It helps your heart rate.
Yep. In cardiovascular shape, right? Heart health. What else?
Helps with your mood, depression.
So? Depression. Very good. Okay. There you go. What else?
It allows you to get some fresh air and sunshine.
Yeah.
It's your
Vitamin D and better feeling good. What else?
Joints and everything lubricated and working well.
Yeah. There you go. If you don't use it, you'll lose it, right? All right. Anything else?
Possibly share with another person some time spent together.
Yeah, the social connection, which is a pillar in lifestyle medicine as well. Love it. Okay, anything else? I'm going to add 2. If you are consistently moving, you're probably going to be at a better weight, typically, right? So potential to lose weight or to maintain a more healthy weight. And the other thing that some people on the call may know is brain health. There's a lot of really amazing studies that are coming out to show that movement can really help you and spark your brain and the brain activity, which is really helpful for me. My dad in 2019, many of you know, passed away from Alzheimer's. So anything I can do to just keep moving in some form or fashion, whether that's a walk or a run or a bike ride or a swim or what have you, to keep my brain as healthy as possible. Lots of benefits there. Strength training, right? So here's the recommendation: muscle strengthening activities, roughly around 20 minutes, twice a week at a minimum. is incredibly important. Okay. Why do you think that is?
Well, at our age, we start losing it at about 50 or so, I think.
Yep, exactly.
And then it
Sarcopenia.
just keeps on going down if we don't
Yeah.
actually actively challenge that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's so important, right? So a lot of folks on the call here, like this is something we should in some form or fashion be doing on a consistent basis. And that could be push-ups, that could be, I mean, it's any number of things you can do just to strengthen your muscles. You don't have to be like the lady on the screen here where you're actually physically lifting weights. There's many things you can do: squats, push-ups, planks. Yeah, there's tons of stuff. You guys can see what I'm saying. And that's different than cardio, which we talked about a little bit before. But it's so important that if nothing happens here and we don't do this, I think it's around 50, Bev, like you said, we start to lose muscle mass. And obviously we don't want to be doing that. So, all right, balance exercise, right?
Mike?
Yes.
One more thing with the muscle strength training, not only the muscle atrophy, but the metabolic activity in the muscles,
Mm-hmm.
because it'll actually help you burn more calories if
Sure will.
if you have muscles as opposed to.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks for saying that. Yeah. The more, you literally your basal metabolic rate will be higher when you have more muscle mass versus less muscle mass. It's a really very good, valid point. Okay. Balance exercise. So this is a woman that's doing a 1 foot balance exercise, and you can literally do this 2 or 3 times a day for a minute or 30 seconds or what have you. Switching feet, literally just working into a routine, but to maintain, to improve our balance is incredibly important, especially as we get older. Who can tell me why that's important?
It's too easy to fall.
Yes. Falling is not a good thing. I think Ben on this call can talk a lot about that because he was a director for many nursing homes in his career, and this is not a good thing. So the way we want to combat that is the strength training, is the movement, and then of course is the balance exercises in some form or fashion. So important. Okay, last thing, and then I'll get to the free tool that I can share with you guys if you're interested in receiving it, and that is sleep. So something that is sometimes overlooked, and sometimes, and then you can see in the chart there what's the sleep recommendations are at hours, and then the deep sleep as well. We're typically getting some of that deep sleep into the later part of our sleep cycle. So if we can't get that consistent longer sleep, we're not getting the deep sleep, which is where our brains are actually recovering and healing itself over the course of that sleep. So incredibly important. It's important to recognize that this isn't just about being tired. Well, I didn't sleep too much last night. And primarily, if there's a challenge with sleep, it's primarily what I'm saying as a consistent sleep deprivation pattern, which is typically somebody that sleeps 6 hours or less. Granted, it depends on the person because we all have different sleeps that we need. But the person that sleeps consistently 6 hours or less for probably more than 2 weeks on a consistent basis. But the other thing that's important, as you can see on your screen, is the circadian rhythm of sleep. Like basically that's when the sun rises and what's going on, and our melatonin in our body that's releasing, and blood pressure. All these things are happening to our bodies because as human beings, we evolved over the course of the several million years. That's how the body works. So it's important to the best of our ability to go to bed at a quote unquote reasonable hour. And you can define with what that means for you. I know for me, it's probably around 10 o'clock in the evening. And I usually get up around 5 or 5:30. So I get a good 7.5, maybe 8 hours of sleeping versus some people have to work the overnight shift, and that makes it that much more difficult for what's being thrown off in their bodies or what have you, or somebody that stays up really, really late, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and sleeps till 11 or 12, right? That affects the level of health in the body as well. And it's really important. So as I mentioned before, kind of give you the answers on this one. Sleep is not just about being tired. Long-term sleep deprivation can have significant impact on individuals' overall health. And the top 6 reasons why are just weight gain and obesity, insulin resistance and diabetes, impaired glucose metabolism, hormonal imbalances, increased inflammation, and elevated blood pressure, right? So it's important that we are, the best of our ability, getting that sleep so our brains are repairing, etc. So I put together a tool if you guys are interested, anybody online watching this recording or anybody that's actually live on this as well. You can just let me know if this is something that you'd like to have as a tool for yourself. But I want to throw out something that potentially could help you, right? We talked about ballpark 20 different things here between the sugar and the salt and balance exercising and all kinds of stuff here. There's probably about 20 different things that we talked about. And you can, if you want to, track some of this stuff, or even just one thing that will help you to make progress on your goals for better health and wellness, right? So what do you guys think if you chose something? Let's just say it's real simple. It's, I'm gonna walk 3 times a week for 30 minutes, right? Just as an example. What do you think how can that help tracking the walking? What do you guys think?
It's reinforcing because you can see your success.
Okay, so it's reinforcing and motivating. Okay, what else?
It's accountability of being able to say I did my goal for the week.
Yeah, accountability. Okay, anything else?
Sometimes it helps to go back and see what you've tracked, because you'll start seeing patterns of whether it might be weight or it might be energy or whatever. You can go back and see patterns on where you maybe didn't do as well, or maybe you did as well, and you can see the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Recognizing patterns. Anything else?
Just I think just to build the habits and to be able to add the next habit or whatever, and you can say, okay, met that one, and then you just keep adding little bitty tiny habits until you get to a better place.
Yeah, just the actual execution of it, right? And I think for me, whether I'm tracking it or I get the feedback from my clients, I think Kimberly said that accountability, and then just having it in the front of your mind, right? I know that I'm going to be filling out my journal tonight, and your awareness of that, potentially you're going to actually do it, like you just said, Bev. So just in the front of your mind, because we are so busy with distractions, we're so busy with our lives in general, that it's easy to become put on the back burner really easily. It's not a set of priority. It's incredibly important, but it's not really urgent. So that walk that you were going to do on Thursday with yourself and your Spotify playlist, all of a sudden gets put on the back burner, right? But potentially if you're in some form or fashion tracking it, which literally can take 60 seconds a day, where you just note on a document, a piece of paper, on your phone or what have you, right? So my recommendation, and a lot of my clients have done this or are currently doing this in some form or fashion, pick 1 or 2 things that you're thinking about tracking, right? Could be movement, could be your sugar intake or what have you. And this is an example that I put together with some stuff I took on the internet today and just tweaked it a little bit, that I can send you this form. You just let me know, and you see my email on there. I can send you this form. And that's just in a way that you want to do this. I just want to track, your weight. And this is an example of what you're going to be doing, right? So for example, review 10 pages of a good book, or read 10 pages of a good book 3 times a week. That's just an example of something you want to do. You want to track it. You mark it with an X, and then you have what's called a WAM, a weekly accountability meeting. Again, this is a 10 or 15, heard about this in a book recently on a podcast. You literally spend 10 or 15 minutes, and you sit down and you look at what your goals are, your life goals, your health goals, etc. And you literally say, I said I was going to do this. Did I do it? And if the answer is no, hey, what can I learn from that? If the answer is yes, great. What can I learn from that? Because ultimately it's really all about progress and just continually trying to be better, right? So that's an example of what you can use as a tool for yourself. And I also have one where maybe you're going to try to track a few things, 2 or 3 things, right? I filled it out again with an example here. This can be overwhelming, so I'm not encouraging necessarily to be looking at tracking 5 things right off the bat. But that's just an example of what you could do. Miss Helen, you got a question?
I have another example of a tracking activity.
Wonderful. What's that?
So a lot of like the specialty gyms now, when you sign up for a gym, you have to sign up and download an app. That's how you like track classes and sign up for classes. And so a lot of them are like tracking how many classes you do for a certain, specialty area of fitness. And so I think that's also like a great way to track your progress on like a weekly basis. So like for example, if you can see, I joined a boxing gym in Boston that does like boxing and weightlifting. And so you can see like as of August of 2021, I have 153 classes that I've logged, and it like already tracks it through this app and through like the network there. And then they encourage you to like post on your social media when you hit a certain milestone. So like maybe when you hit like 50 classes or 100 or 150 classes. So I think like in addition to this like manual tracking, there might be other opportunities to kind of know your wins and track on that level.
I love it. That's fantastic. Yeah, Grace Ann, I don't know if you know this, Helen, or not, but my wife, Grace Ann, she recently, as in probably 2 months ago, and I think Bev on the call as well, are members of Orange Theory.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
oh my goodness, you talk about data, right? I mean, we got splat points, we got calories burned, we got steps, heart rate, miles walked, they track it all. And that potentially, depending on the person, could be incredibly motivating. And then as Beverly Westberg said, you can see how far you've come and things that worked really well for you in the past or what have you. So Helen, I think it's a great thing that you can do where you can really track that. I have Strava. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Strava.
Yeah.
It's just an app that tracks steps and heart rate and all kinds of stuff. And I'm riding my bike and I hit it on there, and it's incredibly motivating for me. And then my friends that are my friends on Strava, give me a thumbs up. Hey, great job, Mike, and vice versa. So for me, that's really motivating. Some people that they don't dig that, and that's okay. It's just what works best for those individuals. But anybody else have any ideas or thoughts on what ways that behaviors can be tracked?
Anything, basically. I mean, I've got huge tracking sheets for exercise, whole food, plant-based, how many percentages in a week, water, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, everything pretty much.
Absolutely. Yeah, my the folks that are on the call or the folks that are listening in that are clients of mine, I use Practice Better as a platform, and that has journal entries, all kinds of stuff you can track on there. It could be calories, it could be water, it could be steps. I mean, there's so many things you can document in that just to have that sense of awareness and such. So very cool. Anything else?
So are you going to put the tracking chart on with the video then?
I am not, but if you want it, just let me know now and I can send it to you.
Yeah, I would like.
Or my email is on there and you can just email me later on as well.
Okay.
So this part of the call that's on here right now is not going to be on the video?
Yeah, it's on the video. It's on the video, but the actual document is what I'm talking about emailing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've already put it together and I've got it saved on my computer. And so I can send the document to individuals and they can fill it out, keep it online, keep it on their digital format on their computer. They can print it up if they want, whatever works best for them. And I'm going to send both the one tracking chart and the 5 tracking chart to whoever wants it. So Nancy, would you like me to send that to you?
Yes, please.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
Me too.
All right. And anybody else, you guys just let me know. I'll be happy to email it to you. That's my mike@wlscoaching.net. That is my email. So hopefully that was helpful for you. And we have just a couple minutes left. Happy to entertain any questions, comments, or concerns about the presentation, etc. What do you guys think?
Well, I'm curious about sleep. Those who have to get up and go to work and have to follow, an alarm clock and all that, that's one thing. But when you don't have to do that, is it better or not to stay within the pattern of your alarm clock, or just to let your body naturally do its thing?
It's better to let your body naturally do its thing in the circadian rhythm of the sun going up and the sun going down, right? So if you are sleeping and it's 9 o'clock in the morning and you normally wake up at 8 and you're retired, but you wake up and you're still pretty sleepy, it's important that you still stay in bed, because your body's going to tell you, similar to if you're hungry, your body's going to tell you you're hungry and you need to eat more food, right? So the short answer is you don't have to set your alarm. You don't have to get up XYZ. If you're tired, you stay in bed. Usually the opposite is the case, especially as we get older. A lot of folks, 3 in the morning, they're looking at their clock. I can't sleep. Ironically, I don't have to get up at 6 in the morning to go to work anymore, but now I'm, tossing and turning and what have you. So that's probably a completely different presentation, but that happens as well.
Right.
Anything else?
I think so. It's informative.
All right. Well, hopefully this was helpful for you guys. Let me turn this off here.